Hey everybody, Brian Goulet here of GouletPens.com, and it's episode number 229 of Goulet Q&A. It's good to have you here. Today I'm going to be talking about Conklin Empires, teaching myself some new handwriting styles, and what surprised me, good and bad, about things that we've started selling. So I hope it's going to be an enjoyable one for you. Last week has been busy for us. We're picking up, getting ready for the coming holidays. We were planning this earlier and earlier this year because it doesn't just happen. And we have a lot of new products in the works. A lot of new products coming from suppliers, a lot of new products that we have helped develop, exclusives and things like this. It's going to be the strongest paced year that we've ever had in terms of new things coming out. So I've been alluding to that the last couple of weeks, and you're going to start to see that kind of stuff come. So it's really exciting, but you know, it's nice because Rachel and I are a couple weeks back now from having traveled, and we're settling in a little bit at home. It's like fall is really starting to feel like fall around here. And we are having like real change of seasons kind of feeling. So this past weekend, we just felt like really like in the mood for like a fall cleaning, you know, kind of thing, and which has never been a thing in our house. But I don't know, we just got in the mood, and my kids like kind of got into it too. So they were like helping clean up the house, and I was like, heck yeah, let's get on board here. Because my kids are 6 and 8, and they're not always super on board with helping clean the house. So it's just really nice, productive, good family working weekend. And that was really cool. So just felt really kind of caught up, which is good because this week has been very, very busy for me, which has been fun. But anyways, we got some new Edison Beaumonts that have just come in. So new colors that have been refreshed. Beaumont's been a fairly popular Edison pen for good reason, and refreshed the colors a little bit. All of the colors that they ended up using were past premier seasonal editions from way back. So I think you'll enjoy all of those because at least you're familiar with them. Yeah, you can check those out on our site. Rachel and I talked about them a little bit, and right now on Monday. And then we have another new pen, the Diplomat Aero in Violet. And I am using a different camera right now, so this one's not going to do a great job of picking that up. Ooh, look how fuzzy that looks. Ooh, isn't that nice? Nice and fuzzy. Okay, so that's a shame. I have a bunch of pens I could show you, but we had some technical issues with our other camera, so we're using our backup one this week. Hopefully it still looks okay. But anyway, we have an exclusive opportunity here for this Violet Aero. The Aero has been a very popular style of pen coming from Diplomat, which is a relatively new brand for us. Number 6 size nib, and we are going to look to get these with both steel and gold nibs. So we don't have the gold nibs yet, but we are looking to get some. Originally, we weren't sure about the supply of gold nibs, but we've been told that they are good to go. So we're going to have those hopefully in a few weeks here. But we have the steel nibs available now. Very solid pen, very happy with it. What else we got? The Benu is a new brand that we have. I don't have any to show you here because we just did a right now one on Monday. You can go check that one out if you want to see like in more detail, especially because I don't have the great camera, and you really need a good camera to show all the details there. So you can check out the Benu. We've got those up and going now. Conklin Duraflex. It's the same Duragraph model, but they had the Duraflex in black with rose gold trim previously. And this is a new turquoise flecked Duragraph that we now have as an exclusive. So this is a numbered limited edition, 1,898 of them in honor of Conklin's anniversary year. And we're going to have it with stainless steel Bach nibs as well as OmniFlex nibs. So you can check those out, some options for you. Solid writing pen. It looks really good. We're excited about this material. So we'll have those. And of course, any Diplomat, Conklin, Monteverde, Peniter, any of those brands, any of those Jaffa brands come with a free bottle of ink now through the end of the year. So that's pretty rad. Speaking of Conklin, we also have the Conklin Empire. And I have a video question on this. A video question. That's what this is. Video question on the Empire, so I'll go into more detail about that, but that is a new launch that we have, so you can check that out. And then we also have the Conklin All-American Raven Black. So this is a new color of an already pretty popular Conklin pen. So it's a big, light pen. It's actually a really popular pen. I think we mentioned it when I had Susan on, talking about people with arthritis, or maybe you have trouble writing. It's a larger, not as heavy pen. So this is a good one for that. And for this, you know, we had a delay on the Bach black nibs that were originally going to be on it. It was going to take us like a month longer, so they let us put our Goulet nibs on these. So we have Goulet Jovo nibs, at least initially, on these Raven Black. All Americans. So sweet pen, very stealthy. It's got a gunmetal clip and a black nib and everything. It looks really rad. And then another cool thing that we've got that's going to be coming soon, actually I'll save this for just a second. Another thing we have that we hit in the last week or two is we hit 100,000 subscribers on Instagram. Woo! So we are going to be doing a giveaway on Instagram. It's actually happening right now. So I don't know why you're thinking about it here on YouTube, because it's an Instagram thing. So you got to head over there, head over to Instagram, and you can get more details there. Follow us if you aren't already. And then we also have this pretty rad Pilot 100th anniversary set, which we published the video yesterday. And I'm really happy with how it came out. It was an honor for me to shoot that video with John, and I'm really pleased with it. And you get to see all the details for those of you who, you know, maybe won't get your hands on one of the 25 sets that they'll have in the world ever. So you can see at least the full details of that set in that video. So please go check that out if you haven't already. If you got a spare 21 minutes to go hang out and look at a $48,000 pen set. Even me watching it, I'm like, I didn't even feel like I was present in the thing. I was like, I was an observer outside my own body looking at this crazy pen set. It's very, very cool, out of body kind of experience. Okay, some other things. The Peniter pen filler. So that is going to be coming very soon. I have one in the building, the final version of it, but my photography team is actually shooting it right now, so I can't show it to you. But anyway, it's coming. We've been waiting on it for a while. If you remember back in like February when we had Dante here, he was alluding to it. So it's been in development now, and it's finally coming to be. So it's very exciting. I'm pumped for that. The Lamy All-Star Pacific Blue should be here sometime relatively soon. This was a previous special edition that's now coming back as a regular color. And I like that color a lot. I'm glad it's coming back. We're going to be carrying some select Franklin Christoph pen cases. So I don't know exactly when we'll be coming out with that, maybe in the next week or two. So be on the lookout for those. And then another new pen that we have on our site is an exclusive that we have with Montegrappa. We've been working on this one for most of this year. So this is the Extra 1930 Shiny Lines, which they've had in other various forms in the past as like a US exclusive. This one is a retailer exclusive here with us. It was kind of a cool story. So what happened was they basically found kind of like an underground cave of sorts, because their building is really, really old. Their factory is really old. And they found like all these like nibs and various supplies and stuff that were like in this kind of cave underneath their factory. And so some of which were select nibs, like this one that we have here that came from a 1998 limited edition that they did, and they had some spare nibs, and they were like, hey, what pens could we put it on? We have some special material, do we have some special nibs? And that's how this pen was born for us. So it's a number 8 size nib, ebonite feed, real celluloid Shiny Lines material, sterling silver trim, ratcheting piston, and we custom designed a center band to match the dove on the nib. Really cool pen. The nib size ratio will not be, you know, it'll be interesting because we only have a couple extra fines. We have some more fines, and we have a bunch of mediums and stuff like that, because we basically had to go with what they had. So you can check those out. It's limited edition, numbered only to 88. 88, right? 80, sorry. So you can check those out on our site. They're not inexpensive, but they're a pretty cool pen. So, you know, we're honored to be able to have that and do something that with Montegrappa. Oh, and the other thing that's special about this particular pen, so they've done this one in sort of a different version before, but this one is the first to have a celluloid grip, which I know some of you are like, I don't really like metal grips. Now we get a celluloid grip on a pen like this. Maybe I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's the first time Montegrappa has done that. So it's a celluloid grip like that. So that was really kind of a cool and kind of win. It's got a wheel clip, you know, spring clip there. Not spring clip, sorry, tension clip with a wheel on the end of it. Very cool. Nice to be able to do something collaborative with Montegrappa on that. So, you know, it's just, you can tell even just like, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 exclusives this week. So it's kind of crazy. Or, well, okay, so the Shiny Lines isn't coming out this week, but this is just a sign of what's to come. It's going to be a very busy holiday season for us. When I say holiday season, I mean like now through the end of the year. So it's going to be pretty cool. All right, let's get into the questions for this week, shall we? First one I have is a pen and writing questions from Mosifus Jennison on Instagram. I think those new Conklin Empire pens are beautiful. However, I can't seem to find much information about that particular model. Are they eyedropper convertible? How different is the shape really? Does the magnetic cap stay well? Educate us with your fountain of knowledge. Okay, so this is a new model that just came out. That's why you're not seeing a lot of information about it yet, because it has not yet been like gotten out there into the hands of people in the community. So I'm sure you're gonna hear more stuff coming out about it. I don't have like a full review for you at the ready, but I'm going to at least kind of talk through what I have to my knowledge right here for you today. So the shape is kind of different. I can't show you much detail on this camera, it's just killing me. And but it's basically like a square shape with, I don't even know how to describe it, with like these humps. Square shape with humps. I really need to figure out a good way to portray this across, but anyway, we have really good pictures on our site of it, but it's a very unique shape. So it's very much a squared pattern on the end, and then it kind of like tapers and rounds out right in the middle. I can't even really explain it. It's very unique. I've never seen a shape like this before. And because of its unique shape, it posts in a very specific way, which is great for those of you who are like, I have to have my clip line up to my nib when it posts, because this one will do that. Is that focus floating all over the place? I can't really tell. My apologies if this is like half this video is out of focus. Other things that it's got going on, because of the shape as well, it does post in a kind of a specific orientation. So it's got to fit in like one of 4 directions when it posts. And what I do find is that the magnetic will lock in pretty good, but it's not practical to, you know, like have it sitting on the table and being able to kind of do it with one hand, because you do have to align it and do it that way. So you get a pretty firm clack on it. And I've found that to be the case with the vast majority of the pens. Some of them clack a little clackier than others, but you still get that advantage of the magnetic where you don't have to fiddle and unscrew and all this kind of stuff. It's a very quick, ready to go. You can quick post, do that if you like that. It's a little bit heavy when you post it, you know, just a little bit. It's not an incredibly heavy pen, but it's got a metal grip and other things, you know, it's got some metal in the clip and the center band and stuff like that. And it's got metal in the cap here a little bit for the magnetic kind of feature. So it's not the lightest pen in the world, but it's a pretty solid feeling pen. It feels very hefty. And I actually got to see some of these like in process manufacturing when we were in Italy a few weeks ago, because these are actually being manufactured there in Italy. And I got to see the facility where these are injection molded, because it's a very interesting shape. It's not something that you can do on a lathe easily. So they're injection molded, but it's not the cheapest plastic, which is, you know, what might be used on some pens. This is a PMMA material. So it's a very high grade, very durable plastic that can do some interesting things with colors and materials and stuff. So it's a resin that's slightly demonstrator, slightly transparent, but it has like sparkles in it. So it's kind of glittery. So it's very, very interesting. They all have red center bands, which I know some people are like not super crazy about. It's a little red stripe on the center band, but I have kind of given them that feedback like, hey, we should change it up in the future. And I think they're going to plan to do that for future colors that may come out. It's a standard international cartridge converter pen. It is not eyedropper convertible because it has metal components on the inside of the pen. I mean, theoretically, you could fill it up. There's no holes or anything. But long term, it's not going to be great for you just because it has those metal components in there, and those are going to corrode over time with contact with ink, unfortunately. What else is going on with this pen? So our versions of these have a number 6 Bach nib. The ones that don't come from Goulet have just Conklin branded nibs that are not made by Bach. I don't know where they're made, but I know they're not Bach. And then some of them do have OmniFlex nibs, which are not Bach. I know it's a little confusing, but these are, if you want to flex nibs, we have it in that version as well. Let's see here. It's got a metal grip. Some people like that, some people don't. But yeah, all in all, that's what you got going on with the Empire. So it'll be interesting for me to see once it kind of gets out there in the community what is going on with it. But that's a rundown of the Empire. I hope you are are able to gain some new knowledge out of that. All right, James R. on Facebook asked, Brian, any thoughts of learning other styles of handwriting, or will you stick with just what you're comfortable with? I don't know that I'm too comfortable with much of any of my handwriting. No, I mean, I'm okay. Honestly, since I started using fountain pens, I've immediately felt the compulsion to write in cursive again. I had not written in cursive without being forced to, basically in my entire life. And I learned in 3rd grade, and then I had to write it a couple of times after 3rd grade, but I basically wrote in print. But immediately at 25 years old, as soon as I started using fountain pens for the first time, I was like, I feel like I should write in cursive. I want to write in cursive. Now it's like when I'm writing with a roller ball or a pencil or something like that, I will most often write in print. But with the fountain pen, I immediately go to cursive. It's the weirdest thing. I'm a weird guy sometimes. But I have practiced a little bit of American cursive. You know, I have a book from Michael Saul called American Cursive Handwriting. And, you know, he's got a new version of that book, which is pretty interesting too, which is not widely available, but it's pretty cool. I got to see him in San Francisco and check that out. You know, I've messed around a little bit with copperplate and Spencerian, nothing enough to ever really even consider that I'm learning it. Maybe I was trying it. But I am very open to learning other styles of handwriting. I think it's a lot of fun, actually, and very kind of therapeutic. It's a great thing to do, you know, honestly, if you're just kind of tired at the end of the day. I work like a freaking dog all day, and half the time I end up working at night too, because I just love what I do and I just want to do more of it. You know, but honestly, you know, sometimes I need to relax, and Rachel and I will watch, you know, reruns of Parks and Rec on Netflix or whatever. That's what we're doing right now. You know, in between regular shows we might watch. So it's kind of just brainless stuff that I can just kind of have in the background. I'll do some handwriting practice, or I'll even, you know, I don't know if this is sacrilege or anything like that, but I have an iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil, and I'll have certain apps where it has different copperplate or Gothic or whatever, and I'll practice, you know, certain things there, which is pretty cool. So, you know, it basically all comes down to time, practice, and patience, right? That's how I view it. Is, you know, it's like learning anything. It's like I'm a musician, right? And I played instruments ever since I was in 6th grade, and you know, it's to me, writing, especially when you're practicing handwriting, new handwriting styles. To me, it's like learning an instrument. You know, you can't have 1 hour of instruction playing the clarinet, which is one of the things I played when I was younger, and then expect to be good 10 years from now. If you want to be good, you need to practice it on a regular basis. Funny enough, it's kind of the same with handwriting, you know. So most of the time, when people are like, "Oh, I wish my handwriting was better," I'm like, "Do you practice?" And it's like, "No." Well, it's like, well, that's like saying, "I wish I was a football player," or "I wish I could speak Italian." You know, it's like, well, if you practice, you probably could. Anybody can improve their handwriting. So for me, though, honestly, I just have other priorities right now. I do it casually. Just because I enjoy it, and I'm not serious about improving it or learning a new handwriting script or anything like that. I would love to, just kind of la-di-da, wishing, sure, I wish I could do Jake Weidman style stuff, and I'm pointing to Jake's, you know, print that I have hanging up in my office right there. You know, I would love to have that level of performance, but I know I'm not willing and able to put in that work right now at this point in my life. So I don't really beat myself up about it. I'm like, okay, cool. I know what it would take to get there. Do I have the raw talent and skill to do Jake's kind of stuff? No. But do I have the ability to do a pretty decent looking copperplate? Yeah, I totally do. It would just take me so many hours of practice on a regular basis, and I just have other priorities right now. I got young kids, I'm trying to grow this business, and just other various things, so it's not my top priority, so I'm not really going to beat myself up about it. But I think it's very much in a realm of possibility for a lot of you who are maybe just kind of looking for something to do. Maybe you have a hobby, but you're kind of looking to explore, or you've felt like you wanted a reason to use your pens more, or you just, you know, you're looking for something relaxing but not too heavy of a commitment kind of thing. You know, you could just try doing some handwriting stuff. There's tons of online courses and stuff like that you can do. There's a few books out there. I know Michael Souls is kind of floating around. It's not widely available yet, but You know, there's some that, you know, there's some apps on the iPad and stuff like that that you could possibly do, but you know, there's ways that it could be accomplished. That's one thing I've been kind of thinking about, is like, what could I do to help enhance people's ability to do handwriting? I'm thinking out loud. I don't have anything in the works right now, and I won't have anything in the next couple of months. But, you know, if you got any ideas or resources, just leave me in the comments. But I'm okay with my handwriting as it is. Honestly, just being a little more thoughtful about it and writing on a fairly regular basis, because I use pens on a very regular basis. That alone has improved my handwriting just by caring about it, slowing down a little bit at times. You know, it's certainly something on my bucket list to like improve my handwriting, or maybe actually learn an intentional like formal script. Would be really kind of cool. But that's just where I'm at in my stage of life. And there you go, insights mind of the Brian Goulet here. This next one is from Kebble93 on Instagram. Which fountain pen brands or models are holy grails for fountain pen lovers, expert, or collectors? That is, what pens do they know a lot about and consider classics and would spend big money collecting? I'm asking because I'm tempted to start investing more in expensive fountain pens, but I don't know where to start looking. Okay, this is going to be really different for everyone, so I can't really say like, here's where you start and you should do this, that, and the other. Especially the more expensive the kind of stuff you get into, the more you have to like really be connected to whatever it is that you're into. So there's really no like one place that everybody starts so much. It's really wherever you feel drawn to. So not everybody's like oriented towards collecting either, certainly. I mean, some people like they have a grail pen, they get it and they're like, I'm good. This is my one really nice pen, and I have others that I kind of use on a regular basis. Or it's like I have one and I'll get a few from different brands and I just have kind of a smattering. Other people, they like really freaking love one brand and they get it and they go deep on that brand and that's it. Or they get into a certain era or a certain color or a filling mechanism or whatever. There's lots of different approaches that someone could take. But since you are kind of asking for like brands or models, I'll kind of start there. So, you know, some people who really get into like, they love Chinese knockoff brands. Like they don't want the real thing, they want the cheapest direct eBay Chinese kind of thing, as cheap as it can get, and they want to get every color and everything because, you know, and they just want to amass a huge collection. I'm gonna go kind of not that route for you because you're asking me about like big money, like expensive kind of things. Most of the time I think, you know, Holy Grail is kind of what you're describing as like these expensive things. Really of the higher end, like limited edition kind of variety. I mean, yeah, definitely there's some people that have Holy Grails like a Pelikan M800 or a Visconti Homo Sapiens. You know, and certainly you can have those in kind of a regular ongoing edition. But I think most of the time Grail pens people are thinking about are limited, either like special editions, limited editions, really, really kind of unique things. That's what makes them the holiest of Grail pens, I think. Some of the brands that I think are typically kind of associated with this like Holy Grail collector kind of status brands that we have here, and this is not exclusive to stuff we carry. I'm trying to think. I looked at a bunch of other you know, brands beyond just what we carry here, because we don't exclusively carry like everything, and we don't carry every brand that's kind of in this collector grade either. So Pelikan, I think, certainly falls into that category. Visconti definitely is. I think Visconti is probably a gateway for a lot of people into kind of collecting, because they get like the Homo Sapiens really is kind of a gateway pen into these higher echelon pens. And then they come up with a lot of limited things. Mont Blanc, certainly they do a lot of limited edition themes. They have for decades. Certainly there are people who are avid collectors of those. Monte Grappa, I think, has a lot of themed limited edition type things that very easily get into collector status. Namiki, you know, getting into like Japanese Urushi, Makie, Chinkin, these types of things. Along those lines, you got the other, you know, Japanese type of stylings and brands. Nakaya, Sailor, even Danny Trio. I think those are all kind of, if you're into that more artistic kind of artisan, you know, Makie, Urushi, lacquer, that type of thing. Those would all fit in there. David Oscarson has some really, you're getting into like the $4,000 or $5,000 and up pens there. So you're really into the echelon. Aurora's got a bunch. They have a range of like limited edition type things they've done over the years. You know, Delta was really big into that. They're not around anymore. And certainly we could go deep into like vintage and get into all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna just kind of like stop myself right there and just be like, you know, because I don't know as much of the vintage stuff, and certainly there's pockets of collecting where prices can get really crazy, even with pens that weren't originally very expensive, but now because they're rare and old and these types of things, you could certainly consider them to be in that like collector grade. But I'm starting to step outside of my area of expertise there, so I will just leave it at that. And then there's surely lots of others, but these are some of the ones that are most top of mind for me. I think all these pens that I mentioned here fall into like the $500 and up, easily $1,000 and up category. So hopefully that gives you a nice little introduction into maybe where you can start looking. This next one is from William H. on Facebook. What's the biggest and girthiest pen you own, and what is the broadest nib you own? The girthiest pen, I always think of one pen specifically when I think of the girthiest pen, my Delta Dolce Vita oversize. I know it's not like the fattest one you can get. You can get custom ones that are huge. You can get, you know, Michael's Fat Boy is one that comes to mind. I think that's just rollerballs though. So I've seen ones at like pen shows and stuff that are just ridiculous, you know, vintage ones and stuff like that. But this is the fattest one I think that I have, especially the grip is so huge. And this is a number 8 size nib on it, and it's still really huge. So very cool pen, very, you know, peak Delta-esque here. And, you know, this one is very large. And the largest nibs, you know, probably the Pilot Parallel 6mm. That's kind of cheating though. That's not really, I think, in line with the question that you're going for here. Like you can get a really broad stub nib, which is like what the Parallel is. But the broadest broad nib that I have is actually the Platinum 3776 Century with a coarse nib. Now they make a broad and a double broad, but the coarse nib is above a double broad. And you don't typically think of Japanese as having a really broad nib, but this coarse nib, I mean, it is just like a huge glob of tipping material on the end of it. It's rather glorious actually, and it's essentially like writing with like the fine tip Sharpie. So I think that one probably qualifies as my broadest. I don't have a ton of like crazy broad nibs, believe it or not, because there just aren't that many out there, and I haven't really gone the route of going vintage and going like hunting for crazy broad nibs. You know, I have plenty of pens with broad nibs, but this coarse nib definitely kind of fits in with the broadest. And I'm sorry, I would show you the writing, but again, camera, can't do it. I picked some good questions for you this week to not be able to show you anything. Way to go, Brian. All right, and I'm gonna close out with a couple of business questions here. So we're only doing 6 questions this week. Take it easy. So the first one is from Shaun J on Facebook. Any plans for offering a military discount or bulk buying discount for ink samples, paper, whatever? The military discount is one thing that's definitely been on my mind. It's not super straightforward. It can be done, so it hasn't been in our realm of capabilities on our old site. It's now, I think, within the realm of capabilities on our new site. We needed to get stable on our platform. You know, we have this basically roadmap of all these different features that we want to build on our site. Some of them are just like basic functionality driven, because we changed over to a new website in June, and we're still working through some of the finer points. It's very stable and we're very happy with the site overall. But in terms of adding functionality that we didn't already have, it's complicated, right? And we're gearing up for the holidays, and we're trying to get things like package sets and stuff like that we haven't had back. We got some like high priority things that we're trying to get back. Military discount is one that's really interesting to me because I went to a military school in college. I have a lot of friends who've served in the military. My grandfather was a veteran. He was in the Army at Pearl Harbor, you know, in World War II. So like my heart is with, you know, our armed forces. And so I want to be able to do that. We do free shipping to APOs, but I know that doesn't cover everybody's situation. So I would like to be able to do that, but we have to have some kind of basically like system or way to kind of automate that and verify that. There's ways to do that technically, but it's complicated, and we're looking into it. That's the best I can say, is we're looking into it and assessing what's the practicality of doing that. In the meantime, a bulk buying discount, for ink samples, paper, whatever, ink samples, we're looking to bring package sets back. So that will help there. Bulk of ink samples is tough because, frankly, it's a ton of labor to do ink samples. We don't get any bulk discounts on any of these supplies. So for us to do a bulk discount, we're basically just eating that. So it's tough because it's a lot of labor to do that. It's really a labor of love to do samples. So, is that a possibility for samples? Probably not really practical for us, just being quite honest. Paper is sort of a similar situation. We really don't get bulk discounts on paper, believe it or not. And so when we ship a lot of paper, we end up actually eating a lot of the shipping cost because we have flat rates on our shipping. So it's like the larger the order of paper we sell, the more money we could actually potentially lose. Not more money we lose, but it does cut into it pretty heavily when we have to subsidize that shipping. So to give additional discounts on top of that, it makes it really tough for us, and it squeezes us in a tight spot. So it's something that we're currently in the process of assessing. We did have bulk discounts stuff on our old site like 4 years ago. We did not have it at any point on our last site. The current site is not built in. We're in the process of assessing building it out, but it's a kind of thing, like, we get asked about it periodically. Really, people aren't bulk buying pens for the most part. People aren't bulk buying ink, except maybe ink samples. But even then, it's like not everybody's buying like the same of one ink sample. So if you're buying 30 ink samples, we're still having to go and run and pick each one. So there's only so much saved there for us on our end. There's not really a discount to pass on to you there. And then with paper, like, yes, technically we don't have to break up because it comes to us in case packs of like 5 or 10 or maybe 20. And maybe we don't have to break down a case pack and stuff like that. But there's still, again, not a lot of savings to really pass on to you. So it's a kind of thing, like, it's been tough for us, and I'm just, pull the curtains open here a little bit. It's tough for us to really prioritize, like, we got to pay for development to have this feature built out. We have to then plan it out, which is time on our part, and implement and train our team and all that. And then the program, it has to make sense. And, it's like, if we offer it, but it's not, an economically viable solution for us, then it's not a long-term good benefit to be able to offer. So we're still really kind of assessing and weighing out the pros and cons doing that. I mean, you would think, yes, it's better to sell 10 packs paper when you can sell, 1 to 10 different people, but, paper is a tough thing for us because it weighs so much, and it's a challenge. So it's kind of thing, like, I could really use your help in kind of assessing the importance of that, because it's difficult for us to prioritize it. And basically the development costs, we'd have to build that in giving a discount, and then, like, would it bring so much more business in? Like, we would have to pay for it somehow. We can't just give discounts. We don't have so much extra money built into things that we can just give out free money. It's like it would have to make sense for everybody for us to be able to do that. So we'd have to, like, bring in more volume and stuff like that, enough to make up for the discount that we're giving away, and that's tough. We wouldn't be able to give a huge discount, and so would it really be worth it? I don't know. So we're balancing all that out, and with everything else that we have on the roadmap, it's tough to say if that's the most important thing. So for me personally, I actually kind of would rather prioritize a military discount over a bulk buying, but that's where I could really use some of your feedback on that. So leave that in the comments, and I could really appreciate hearing from you about it. Cool. All right, and then last question I have is from Ian B on Facebook. Ian, like I-A-N, not E and E-B, whatever, Ian. Have you ever had someone suggest you sell a particular item? You did it and it became an unexpected hit. Or the opposite, did something you thought was a sure thing end up being a dud? If so, what was it? So unexpected hits, there's nothing that's been like, we thought it would not be popular at all and it blew us away. There's definitely some things that we were like, I don't really know how this is going to do, and we were like cautiously optimistic, and it ended up being pretty popular. The Diplomat Magnum was definitely one. That's a newer pen. We kind of knew that could be popular, but the crazy thing about the Diplomat Magnum, that pen has been around for 40 years. 40 years that pen has been in existence. Why all of a sudden is that pen blowing up? You know, the Diplomat distributor changed. You know, so Jaffa is a distributor for Diplomat now. Jaffa has like 12 different brands. So they know kind of what they're doing when it comes to distribution and promotion and things like that. So there's an awareness piece of it for sure. But it's the same pen that's been around for 40 years. It's crazy. So, you know, we were like, we think this could be big. And the Diplomat Aero too, it's not as old, but it was like, it's been around for several years. It's like, is it really gonna like blow up and become really popular? And it's like, yeah, the Aero and the Magnum both have become, wow, okay, yeah, everybody gets it. There's really value. You know, the Magnum especially because the price point has really been popular. So that is one that was like, wow, okay, very pleasantly surprised. Makes sense because like we always get products in ahead of time and we're like, wow, I really think this could do something. But there was nothing that was like a total dud. And the funny thing is like the Magnum and Diplomat, we got a few questions about it here and there, but largely Diplomat as a brand didn't get a lot of questions about it. Didn't have a lot of awareness in the community around it, except those who went to pen shows pretty much knew about Diplomat, but really outside of that, nobody really knew it. So we knew about it and we had an instinct for how it would do. So we kind of prepared for that. Even still, you know, we were out of stock of, I think we're still out of stock of some Magnums because it was just like, the response was really good. And that's a good thing when like, you know, we're ready for it, not just us, but like Jaffa, you know, getting in the Magnums. You know, they got a decent stock in and like they basically sold out. So they're getting more in. But the cool thing is Diplomat was just like sitting there waiting, ready to ship more stuff. So that's really cool. That's rare. Rare that something like that happens. You all know, you follow us, you know that we carry something new and then it's out of stock for like a month. And, you know, it's not because we don't know what we're doing. It's because they just haven't made anymore. And, you know, it's like limited stock and, you know, we order it, but it's on back order for forever and all that kind of thing. That happens all the time in the pen industry. But that's been a very pleasant surprise there. Another thing that really pleased us was the Stipula Toccoferro, the orange one, the first one. So it's the Ventidu model, which we never carried previously because we came in and we picked up Stipula at a weird time in their history. So they had like kind of cooled off on a lot of the pens that they had been making a couple of years ago. And so we were kind of like just waiting around like, all right, Stipula, what are you going to come out with here? I was able to gain a lot of context around that when I went over and saw them in Italy. But, you know, now they're coming out with more stuff. The Ventidu is a model that they had previously. They'd never done it in that, you know, steel iron kind of design. And it really took us by surprise. You know, it's funny, our team was very, very split on that pen. You know, aesthetically, very split. It's a heavier pen that we just didn't know how it would do. So we almost didn't carry it, but it was like, all right, let's give it a shot kind of thing. Like that happens sometimes. Some things we have a really good, even as much experience as we have a whole team that gives input. Really, Rachel is the final decision maker on like, yes, we'll carry this, no, we won't. Because we've all agreed like we need one decision maker for most products. Sometimes it's very obvious like, okay, if Lami's coming out with a new color Safari, like duh, we're gonna carry that. But other things, it's like, it's a bit more speculative. So we have our own kind of internal process we've come up with based on, you know, what works for us. But that was one where it was like, Rachel was not hot on that Toccoferro. And, you know, she and a couple others on the team were just like, I don't get it. I think this pen is ugly, but I could see maybe it could do it. And some of us, I was on the team like, oh yeah, that pen needs to happen. So, you know, we all kind of waited. Rachel was like, all right, I'll leave room to be surprised. And lo and behold, the pen was really successful. And to the point now where we've got one in blue, you know, because the orange one's all gone. So it's a limited edition. So we were like, all right, let's do a blue one. And this time it'll be exclusive. So that's kind of cool. So, you know, that was one that was a surprise in a good way. As far as duds go, you know, I'm not going to say there's anything that we like was a complete and total flop. Like we bought really heavy, we promoted it like crazy, and it just stunk up the room. Like there's nothing that's been like that. We've had things where we were really excited about something and we like overshot our projections and we kind of ended up being overstocked, or, you know, we carried something fairly conservatively and we thought it would do okay and pick up speed and it just really didn't, kind of thing. But most things were fairly accurate. Like, we're pretty conservative, honestly. As many new things as we come out with all the time. Here I've like introduced 5 things to you today. As many of as much of that as we do on a regular basis, we're actually fairly conservative financially in terms of how we launch things. So, you know, we will not like be, you know, rose-colored glasses when we carry something new. We do a lot of projections. We do a lot of very careful thought and consideration, and we're pretty reasonable and realistic when we carry new things. And we're very calculated about it too. You know, if we know that there's a really good supply of it, we spend a lot of time on vendor relations, and if we know that there's a good supply of it and we have an instinct like, okay, we think it might do well, but we just don't know. We're not going to have the time to promote it really heavily at the beginning and get awareness around it and all that kind of stuff. Like, we'll go a little bit lower. That way, if it does pop, like, we can order more and we can get it in. But otherwise, it's like, we don't want to be crazy overstocked and sitting on, you know, because retail, you know, if you're in the retail business in any form or fashion, you know you live and die by how well you manage your inventory, you know, because there's only a finite amount of money, finite amount of time, and if I'm overstocked on this one thing here, that takes away from my ability to carry the next thing over here. So we have to manage that well. And with 4,000 products and we're launching 140 different things a month, you know, that can get a little bit much to manage. So some of the things that, you know, nothing's been, so all that to say, like, it hasn't been a complete dud, complete flop, but some of the things that have been, you know, maybe a little interesting in terms of how it was received. One of them is, may surprise you, the Lamy All-Star Matte Black. So that was a huge hit when it was a special edition. And, you know, a year went by after it closed out as a special edition, and we heard they were bringing it back as a regular color. We were like, oh man, get ready. That pen was so popular as a special edition. Here we go, you know, stocked up really well and all that. And it didn't flop, but it definitely was not even close to the level that it was when it was a special edition. So I don't know if it was just, you know, everybody who kind of wanted it already got it, or it was just not as special anymore, or whatever it was. But, you know, it wasn't a problem or anything. We wrote it out and you know, had the pens for a while and still have them, obviously. They're regular things. But you know, it surprised us. You know, and that's happened a couple of times. Like, we had another one, you know, kind of in that category of like, was really successful. We were out of stock of it then, and then when it came back, it was not nearly as successful. That happened to us when we had an exclusive that was a Delta Unica in matte black. This was a couple of years ago. You know, it was wildly popular, the first shipment that we got. It took like 3 or 4 months for us to get another shipment, and when it came back, it was like, you know, maybe a quarter of the interest that it had before. And we were just kind of like, what the heck? You know, it's like, it was really popular. We didn't have it. We thought like, hey, maybe we'd be excited and waiting around. And then it was like, you know, much less interest. So sometimes it's crazy like that. Sometimes there's something like that. There's a big gap. Hype gets built up like crazy, and then it's even popular the next go around. Other times it's like, nope, there was an initial wave, and then people are moving on and getting other things and stuff like that. So retail is just funny like that sometimes. Let's see here, Homo sapiens elegans, the Visconti Homo sapiens elegans. So that was a resin body. It's been discontinued now, but it's a resin body Homo sapiens. It had the full-size palladium nib, you know, and it was a cartridge converter, so maybe that was part of why it wasn't as well received, but it was a little bit lower price point. And it just was not received really. It's not that people hated it, but there wasn't as much interest in it. Everybody was kind of like, if I'm going to spend that much, I'm just going to get the lava one. And so I was kind of surprised. I figured, you know, it would be interesting to see how that one did, and it was just like, nope, everybody wants the lava. So just saved up, got that. They were like, if I'm going to get a black thing, I'll just get the lava, or I'll get the dark age. You know, it just like, okay, people have spoken. Another one was the Stipula Passaporto. So that one has had some, you know, kind of mixed reviews. I think, you know, any pen that's a pure eyedropper is always interesting. A lot of times people like the idea of an eyedropper, but then when that's the only option, they're like, oh, okay, I kind of would like the ability to do something else here. If I get leaked on one time, they're like, no, this is not for me. Or, you know, that pen was hyped for so long. We had it on our website for like almost a year and a half before it finally launched. So it's like, we were like, all right, this pen has been around for so long, it's just gonna be it's going to be overhyped at this point. There's almost nothing we can do to prevent that, and that ended up being the case. It was really popular right out of the gate, and then it really just kind of tailed off after that. So, you know, that was one that I think fell to the long hype thing. You know, but as a caveat, we're really conservative for our approach to new things. You know, we don't bet the farm on anything. That's really a total gamble. So all of these are really not even super extreme examples. These are just some of the top of mind ones that come to mind for me. So that's about all I have for you for Q&A this week. I hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you're out there enjoying some fall activities. We got Halloween that's going to be coming around the corner here. You know, and it's, at least, I don't know, I got fall on the brain because it's like starting to cool off. I'm like wearing long sleeves now, though I am just a little bit warm. I'm at that weird place. Like in Virginia in October is like, you know, it could be cold, it could be hot. A lot of times you're like cold in the morning, you throw a fleece on, by lunchtime rolls around, you're like sweating. Go figure. Like real high class problems here, right? Everybody's crying for me. But anyway, so I'm curious, my question of the week for you is, what's your favorite fall activity? Do you have a fall activity that you love to do? One thing that, you know, like a specific pumpkin patch, or, you know, do you love to do the Halloween and dress up thing, or do you have some other thing, make apple cider? I don't know, whatever your fall activity might be. One thing that we've kind of de facto ended up doing is, you know, if you're in the DC area or Northern Virginia area, there's something called Cox Farms. So it's like a family farm where they do, you know, hay rides, and they make kettle corn, and they have slides, and they have a giant corn pit that kids can play in, and they have apple cider, and they have all these like big slides everywhere that are like built into the sides of hills and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun for the kids. And it's something that Rachel, you know, did when she was a kid, because she's up from that area. And so we go up there and we try and get together with her sister or her mom or whatever, her parents, and take our kids there. So that's kind of ended up becoming kind of a fall tradition for us. So that would be my answer to that question. And then going along the Halloween theme here, I'm going to give you a writing prompt. This is for yourself, just to use your pen on paper, but to write about the first scary movie that you ever saw, if you can remember what that was. I'm trying to remember what the first one I ever saw. I remember the first, it was not like a Halloween theme or anything like that, but the first movie that I ever saw that really scared the living daylights out of me was Ghostbusters 2. I saw that when I was way too young, and I remember that was actually the first nightmare I ever remembered having, was Ghostbusters 2. For those of you that don't remember that movie, I thought like if I took a bath that like the weird goo was gonna come out of the bath, or like when the ghost was like trying to steal the baby or whatever, I thought I was gonna get like kidnapped by a ghost in my sleep kind of thing. So really freaky movie for young kids, so I would not advise showing them Ghostbusters 2 until they're well beyond the age of reason. But anyway, that was my story. I hope you have a great weekend, a great rest of your week. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, so you can check out some of the other cool things that we're going to have going on. We're going to have some very interesting videos coming out here shortly. One in particular that we've already shot but has not been made public yet is going to be rather legendary. So I think it's going to be very interesting for you. So that is my illusion. No giveaways on the video front there, but be on the lookout. So anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this. Thanks so much for watching, and right on.